So there are two things I picked out from the what you mentioned. So number one is the ROI. You mentioned that someone bought 8 months down the line, the lady has 100% ROI.
I know with Forex you would have made way more. Don't even go there. Okay, so that I'm going to interrupt you.
Allow me to finish because
I know she definitely can make way more from Forex, but you also agree that she can still lose the money in 1 month.
No doubt. Now, like I said, every industry has advantage and disadvantage. Now, you said she did 100% in 8 months. I can tell you, I've done 500%, I've done 1000% in weeks.
Yes.
Depends.
No dispute.
No dispute, right? You understand? And another thing, that's one thing I wanted to point out. Another thing I wanted to point out also is, it's very easy to tell people buy land, invest in land, buy land. But what we don't talk much about is liquidating the land. At the end of the day, because I will tell you this, I bought my first property in Abuja was in 2021. 2021, that was my first property in Abuja. So we're in Jikoi. And it was a very reputable, if not that this out there, I would have called the name of the company because they are quite silly. So I bought a property 500 square meter and they told me that is a buy and build. So as of then, I bought then, I think it was 6 million. That was what I bought. And paid all the dues, everything, because I wanted to start building immediately. Paid everything. Everything I paid in that land is, let's say, everything add up, let's say 9 million thereabout to get the whole thing. And I started building. In fact, when I started putting out my, fencing, doing my foundation, there was no other structure in the entire estate. Because the way they promised me the whole thing, it's buy and you can go to site. I called my architect, they did planning everything. When I went to site, they called me one day that somebody's here, the man is here, they said it's the MD of the estate that they don't have approval. I said, what do people mean that you don't have approval? But you said it's buy and build. Does buy and build mean something different, or is it me
buy, wait for approval, then build?
They told me it's buy and build. So, I was shocked. So, long story short, I said, okay, you guys don't want me to build. I need to sell. And you won't believe that from 2021 till now, I still haven't sold that property. You understand? Because once people come, you tell them that the estate is waiting for approval also, it becomes an issue. They wouldn't want to buy because most of them want to buy because it's a very developed area. You can actually buy and start living there. You know Jikoi, right? Yeah. Phase 2. You can actually buy and actually start and live there. So just because they don't have that approval, the whole thing is stalling. So I feel like that property is tied down now. Because if I had that money, most likely I would have subscribed to maybe 5 plots from your estate and it gives me more ROI. So that particular case of liquidating the land, what can you say?
So yes, I totally agree with you. You've mentioned very important issues. In fact, I beg to call them some of the realities of the business. But first, before I touch on the issue of liquidity, let me state that the players in the industry, in the real estate industry, we've not helped, right? Just as I would hope also that there are people in Forex that are not helping the industry.
Yeah, sure.
Now, with real estate, developing is not easy. Being a developer is not easy. I'm not going to lie to you. And sometimes government also plays a role in while some things are not easy. While a whole lot of the times, the developers themselves are not sincere. I wish I can say a whole lot of things here, but at some point, the developer is doing a project, but doesn't have right of possession. Okay. In other words, developer can buy a property in installment from an individual, and has not finished, and at that point cannot or doesn't have access to all of the papers. And with not having access to all of the papers, even though it is a developed area, and in quotes, a buy and build, right? At that point, the guy cannot process any approval. Okay. And at that point, nobody, because it's Abuja, you can't still build, right? And even if you build, whatever you are building is not approved yet, and you're going to have issues, right? So if we can begin to bring sincerity to the sector, I'm not supposed to be telling you this, but I'm talking to my colleagues who may be watching out there. For example, we have projects that already have approvers. We have those that don't have approvers yet. That doesn't mean it will not have approval. It's just that it doesn't have approvers yet. For some, in fact, I have a project that one of our projects in Karachi, I paid, 100% in full. I met with the man who was meant to sign the approval in his office, and he told me that if I pay in full today, that in 10 days, our approval will be out. Our regional approval will be out. January. Today is 1st of April, 2025. That approval is not out. Right? We needed to start moving file. You pay somebody to move the file from this office to that office. After you're done doing that, because they did not do your architectural designs, they want to poke hole here and there, right? So for them not to stress you or poke hole, you have to now still give that person money to allow that architect in their office to also allow the approver or what your architect has designed to scale through, right? That's so my problem. I don't know if I'm giving you more points right now, but those play certain roles behind the scene that creates issues. And thank God that I try to be as transparent as possible. And sometimes the transparency also does not solve the problem, because you may have promised a client that you can start building in January or February on the latest, but now we're in April and we keep tipping people so that the file gets to the person it has to get to. As I speak to you, the file is on the desk of the same man. It has moved around and around and has come back to him to make his final approval. And guess what he said? He brought up the issue of the fact that we have no playground for children in the estate. So now we have to look for a plot in the estate to convert for a playground for children. So that's the only thing holding the approval right now. But this can be a defense to what you raised, or can just be the fact that the developer was never sincere from the beginning in terms of the documentation. Right. So again, which is why we say the people you get involved with matters a lot. If I was in the shoe of that developer, I can tell you what the issue was. Why is the approval not out all of that? Right. Transparency is key in the business, because sometimes it's not your fault. There's no perfect industry. Even in the US, in the UK, somebody who is quite familiar with the global real estate market. So I try to be as familiar as possible, so that even when my diaspora client is saying, "Oh, this is not how it's done in the UK," I can also tell you that, "Hey, guy, I know what's up in the UK." Right. So the summary is that is a reality, and that is dependent on the developer or the real estate company you are working with. And then the issue of liquidity, to be honest, that is a problem. Right. For example, I have a client who wanted me to sell a property for her towards the end of last year. But now there's a challenge. Where she bought the property, we as a company, we have gone on to do 2 other projects in the same location. At that point, it becomes difficult for us to, in fact, clients key into the one you're pushing. Than the one that is a secondary sale. Knowing that the person who is on a secondary sale is making profit off him or her, while the new project, he or she is going to be maximizing profit. So naturally that creates a problem of liquidity for her.
I guess it.
Assuming we didn't have any other estate in that location, then we could have easily been able to help her liquidate the property. So while liquidity is a general issue, there is also the issue of contest. Why have you not sold it? What is delaying the sale? If it's a location that has been, or that is naturally a high demand area, and we don't have a project, it's just to do one video and then somebody will pick it up. I sell like water, right? I sell real estate like I'm selling bottled water. It's my natural demeanor. But then, but then there could also be contextual challenges that makes it impossible, just like the one I just gave. Right. So to her, real estate becomes a serious issue, or liquidating real estate becomes a serious issue. I've had to do transactions that I flip quickly. Right. So at that point, I could say by context, the real estate was liquid for me. Right. So it's all dependent on the context, but generally, that is a problem for real estate. I will not deny that.
Yeah. Anyway, well, it's not a big issue, especially for somebody who is thinking long term.
Sorry to cut you short. I think I remember one part. If you're a client or a real estate investor listening to this, I think this is a problem.
Yeah.
Right? You don't generally buy real estate or invest in real estate on short-term basis.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't buy a property and in the next 3 months you want them to sell it for you to make the same money that has been projected to you.
Yeah.
So for example, I could have said this property will give you 100% return on investment in 1 year.
Yeah.
And in 6 months or 7 months you want to sell it, and in your mind you want 70%
of that
money since it's not up to 1 year now.
Yeah.
But then again, you make a mistake because at the end of the day, you are going to be rushing. For example, I have a client who called me on Friday before my trip. He was telling me that he has a very nice property in one of the estates that we sold 2 years ago. Property is ready. Property is 2 bedrooms, going to be going for as much as 90 million naira. Wow. And he wants me to sell it. I told him, how long do you want it? So he said, if I can sell it tomorrow, that he will get. But the truth about it is that he will not be able to sell it at the price anymore because
he's
there's
on
desperation.
Yeah, he's on distress.
Right? So if you want to maintain profitability with real estate, you must allow the time that it is designed to have.
Yeah.
There was a conversation around somebody who bought a land for 7 million in 1992, and in 2025 it's valued at 3.5 billion naira. Right? Of course, there was a conversation around inflation and all of this, but that's not the context here. The context here is that for it to have been 3.5 billion today, a whole lot of time
has elapsed. Yeah.
Right? You can't expect to make that kind of money and then do it within a short period of time. Yeah. Right? So real estate is long term. You can get some immediate return. You can flip it as fast as possible, especially when you're a professional and then you are in the business. Yeah. You can flip and quickly get your money. But then clients, investors should, if somebody dies in the village, they want to sell their property quickly. Yeah. Something happens, they want to sell. Real estate doesn't work. I think that's one of the advantages of the business.
Yeah, and I've also learned that there's a difference between investing in real estate and doing the business of real estate.
100% correct.
Yeah, I at least personally, correct. I know that having, been a little into real estate right now, I know that there's a difference between business of real estate, because I know prior to ending of last year, where we decided as a company we now want to go into real estate, all I was doing was basically investing in real estate. So I can just get, money, just buy a single estate plot, just keep it, hoping maybe to resell later. But being into the business now, I found out that, man, it's
a whole lot.
It's quite different.
I wish I can say something again, but after when the camera is off, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Right, but either way, there's a whole lot of money to be made, and I think where we should begin to dive this conversation into is the strategies. Okay. From your end, how do you maximize profitability in forex trading and reduce the risk? Both of us will agree that the risk in forex is quite high. Yeah. In fact, arguably at the highest level of risk in the entire business world. Yeah. The stock market has its risk, but forex is way higher. Yeah. Real estate has its risk, but real estate cannot compare to forex or the stock market at a global level, right? So we can agree that both sectors have their risk. The question now is, how do you maximize profits and reduce the risk in the sector?
Okay. Well, for forex, I would sincerely say knowledge is everything.
All right.
You understand? There's this thing that we always tell our students, that you will pay to learn forex. Either you pay a mentor or you pay the market. Either ways, you will pay regardless. Yeah. Personally, he asked me initial question how much I lost learning forex. I lost over $40,000 learning forex in a space of 3.5 years. So from the start of, because I don't come from what you call a poor family. We are above average. Not Dangote kind of money, but we are above average. So I had some money. Both from inheritance, my dad left before he passed on, and money I got from loans from bank, here and there, uncles, aunties, that kind of thing. So I lost a lot of money, learning forex. So, but my problem was not simply because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the right knowledge. You understand? So if I were to start over at Forex today, I'll most likely, first of all, go for mentorship. That was why when we decided to go in straight into, diversify into real estate, first of all, I came straight to you. How much is your course? Gave me all the courses available. I said, how much is everything? I paid for everything because I don't want to go into real estate the same way I went into Forex.
Yeah.
So I wanted mentorship straight. Tell me what works. I'm going whatever you tell me. You understand? So the risk involved in Forex trading is just the risk of not having enough knowledge. If you don't have the knowledge, understand how the market works, the rudiments of the market, especially coming from the perspective that this market is a combination of two factors. You need a skill set, you need a mindset. So most people have the skill set of a Forex trader, but they don't have the mindset of a Forex trader. You understand? Now, there's some things that can give you some dispositions in your mind that can give you advantage as a Forex trader. For instance, let's say I'm a naturally greedy person. I can convert that greed to my advantage in Forex. For instance, I'm not really a greedy person personally, but I know people who are quite greedy in terms of that's how they are. But it's an advantage to them in Forex because they can enter a particular trade setup and a trade maybe they entered with $1,000. There's profits already, $2,000. That's 200%, ROI already. But they can wait. They can hold that trade till it becomes becomes $1,000. We've had people in this industry that turn $100 to $1 million.
And that automatically also is a testament of their risk appetite.
Yes, of their risk appetite. That's what I'm trying to say. So the risk is there, but we put the risk to our advantage. You understand? And of course, you stand the chance of, if you don't know what you're doing, stand the chance of getting your fingers burnt. I got my fingers burnt. You can lose a lot of money in Forex. If I'd have had last year, I had over 3 different police cases where somebody calls out, FX Daddy, and this one, I collected money from this person. One was even as a case where I was speaking to the policeman that was with him in the prison. Something that didn't have anything to do with me. Just because he knew me, he felt like, let me reach out to him and see whether he can help me and that kind of thing. So there are cases like that. There are people that ended up in prison because of issues like this.
Yeah.
But that's why
like real estate.
Just like real estate. So that's why I always advise. I mean, if you're going to go into Forex trading, start with mentorship. Don't try to figure it out on yourself. It's possible to figure it out on yourself. I won't lie to you. Personally, I figured it out myself, but it cost me $40,000.
Yeah.
So do you have $40,000 to spend learning it? So the easiest way is always mentorship. I will advise that anytime, any day, and understand the risk. Understand what, at worst case scenario, this is what can happen. And once you're okay with the worst case scenario, you're good to go.
Yeah.
But you just need to be sure that you're okay with the worst case scenario. Once you're good with that, go ahead. When I started trading, I was so afraid of, being in debt. And the first time I had an issue where a client gave me fund, I lost the money. I know the pain. It's painful making money. It's more painful making to pay. That's the worst thing. I made up my mind. This thing can never happen again. So we devised different systems that we can be able to manage people's funds even without them sending money to our account. In which case, we came up with different copy trading systems, palm systems and stuff like that. So these are systems that you can use to manage funds even without them sending money to your account. So that way you put the risk on the side of the client. So on that point, I can sincerely say that the risks are there, but if you understand the risk will be to your favor. Because anything that has the tendency of high risk has a tendency of high reward.
Yeah.
You understand? Anything that
higher the risk, the higher the
risk, higher the reward. You understand? So of course, like you said, Forex trading might not be for everybody. It might not be for everybody. It is available for everybody. There's not everybody should trade Forex because of that. It's not everybody that likes that up and down the market. Because you can enter a trade today, you can enter a trade now, and you're seeing profit $1,000, and you just go inside to go pee, come back before you see minus 5,000. There's nobody that can deal with that kind of stress. So I had a particular man come here for our training. This man came from Bielsa for our training, and he was telling one of our staff that, at some point during his trading, where he was learning. There was one time he entered the bedroom to take his bait. He was looking at a trade, entered the bedroom, came back. The same trade that was on profit, the account was gone. He said on the spot he had brain, what's it they call it? Like his mouse shifted instantly because of the shock. He couldn't stand the shock. You understand? So
there's nothing you can do about it.
There's nothing. The money is gone.
No police to report.
No police to report. You understand? So that I can tell you, yes, Forex is high risk, but it's highly rewarding. It's highly high. Personally, I mean, I'm a testament of what Forex can do. As when I was doing my youth service, I was driving my third car during NYSC. You understand? So I was a rich copper. So when other people were looking for hospitals that would pay them,
you're not queuing for food.
I was not at all. I just want to have my time. In which case, he allowed me. I come to hospital once I have something to do and all. So it was a bit. I was balling. You could say I was balling. For me to say I bought my first property 4 years ago, means that I was making a lot of money then. You understand? So the risk is there, but once you can put the risk to your favor, I think you're good to go.
I think with what you're saying, I can gain insight or some level of insight as somebody who looks at the numbers. I think that every Forex trader should have a bench line.
Okay.
In other words, I made $50,000 today. I can't trade, or as far as my cash base is concerned, I should never have below $30,000 in my account.
Okay, yeah.
In other words, irrespective of how the market is doing, I can't go or touch anything that goes into below $30,000. I can trade the entire $20,000, lose it, make more money with it, but anything below $30,000, I'm not going to go there.
Yeah.
If there can be that discipline or system that helps you stay with that line of discipline, I think that makes sense.
That's the problem. The problem is discipline now. The problem is it's difficult to stay disciplined in Forex. I'll tell you this.
Okay.
Yes, because for instance, now let's talk about real estate. If I have a plot of land, if you buy that land, I'm giving you land, you're giving me money.
Yeah.
You understand? But in Forex, you're trading money for money. So the emotional, exposition that comes with it is higher, way higher than what you have in real estate. Do you understand? Because your emotions are all over the place, because the money can go and the money can come. You understand? So for instance, now the percentage, unlike real estate where we know that maybe land appreciates gradually, maybe 5%, 10%, 20%, like that. In Forex, you can enter, especially if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not good at finance, you might enter a trade, lose 10% today, make 20% tomorrow, make 30% tomorrow, lose 50% tomorrow. You understand? Because of that irregular growth curve, it's a bit difficult to be disciplined with it.
I think there's something like that with real estate.
Okay.
And what it is one of my coaches calls it asset addict.
Okay.
In other words, so it's not exactly, but it's still in line with the appetite. So for example, when we started developing our project, I had that tendency to literally empty my account buying properties. I could make a commission of XYZ, and I have projected myself. In fact, I'm already on an installment payment that my commission cannot deal with or handle. I can empty my account buying properties, right? Of course, that's what aided in the transition, but I noticed that was a bit of a problem because I was always biting more than I could chew.
Yeah. And
I think it's almost the same spirit of emptying your account. Or for example, this property is so nice, I can see this property will give you huge return on investment. Instead of me to buy one plot, I want to buy three. Instead of me to buy 3, I want to buy 10. Right? Instead of 10, I want to buy 5 hectares. Right? And then sometimes, in fact, the spirit also is in the development. How? You have a project that is, say the owner has 10 hectares.
Okay.
And then the spirit, knowing that this location is great, knowing that this will give you huge returns on investment. In fact, we have multiple projects like that right now, where I'm like, we're not selling anymore because I know that this is going to give us massive return on investment. And then, even though we're not selling anymore, I want to buy more so that we have what to sell for as long as 5 years on that project. But then again, you know that the cash available cannot handle that entire stuff. And then the tendency to want to take a loan to acquire extra 3 hectares is also there. So I know that I made that advice, but with your response, it made me remember that with real estate, that attitude is also there. But there's a point we have to draw the line, either in real estate or in Forex. And I think that line should be knowing what works, and importantly, creating systems that are above our emotions. In other words, this is a system and structure around my business. I am accountable to maybe a mentor or a system that I respect. In other words, for example, I have a finance team. And from my perspective in having those financial conversations, we know that even though we want to pause sales on this project, we know that it makes sense to buy 3 more hectares. But how do we raise money to buy the extra hectares? Of course, knowing that Abuja, 1 hectare is a whole lot of millions, right? And at that level, the question now is, do I borrow money, which increases my risk, but of course increases my profit? But at that point, who should approve that move, which is the accountability system I'm talking about, either with Forex trading or with real estate. It's possible that you own the $50,000, but somebody else approves the use of that $50,000. It's your money, but you're accountable to a system or a person. In other words, sir, I want to trade, this thing is making sense. I want to trade the entire $50,000 in my account. And the man says no, or the system says no. You can only trade $20,000, and there's nothing you can do about it. That way, there is some level of discipline in what we are doing.
And the thing is, you know, many people come into Forex trading, especially as a matter of survival. It's not, people don't come into Forex trading majorly because they want to build sustainable long-term wealth. Because, like you rightly said, the mode, the mode of entry is a bit easy. It's very small. Just with a $10 account, you started trading. You understand? So people come in based on survival. So somebody coming with a survival mindset is different from somebody who's coming in to build wealth. So building wealth now is where you start factoring things like accountability system, knowing, this is what our capacity is per time, this is what we should do, this is what we should not do, and all. So as you were speaking, it so reminded me another advantage I said I would talk about. I even forgot. Forex trading is the scalability in Forex is a bit easier than what I see in real estate.
Correct.
Let me tell you why. Because if I have the skill of trading, scaling for me is simply more capital, nothing else. I don't need extra shop. I don't need overhead. There's no overhead cost. I don't need to employ more staff.
Operational costs.
You understand? No operational costs and all. Nigeria currently, there's no taxing system, effective taxing system.
Regulations.
Forex trading also, you understand? So just more capital have scaled up. So that way, for instance, now us as a company, TradeWave Capital, the whole world is our client. Because once you have money, you're my client. Once you have money and you're willing to join an account management system or something like that, you become my client automatically. Unlike real estate, where it's a bit too, unless maybe you guys maybe have a land, say, okay, what do you want to do with the land? Let's do a JV. Okay, you now sign an agreement like that. Before that process, it takes a little while, and by the time you go to edges, you want to do confirmations of the land, all of that. But in Forex is a bit different. So what you need is just fund the money, join account management. You can fund a $50,000, start managing it today in less than 2 hours. We started managing the account. You understand? So it's a bit. That's one of the little advantage I forgot when we were talking about advantages, though.
Okay, so let me now touch on
Strategies.
maximizing strategies to maximize real estate investment on this side, and then we'll begin to wrap up the conversation. I'm sure you guys are having a great time, and don't forget to subscribe to these channels because I mean, what we're doing is totally mind blowing. FS Daddy on one side, and of course Raymond on this other side.